right. Thank you very much. All right, welcome to our June breakfast. As I said, we are probably very close, even though this is very convenient to being back in person. So that decision is getting made by the executive board. But we will go from there. But here we are. The Biden boom continues. And with all the job opportunities that must be opening for FBI agents, with all the investigations into Trump's cabal of criminals. So if you want to get a job with the FBI, they may be hiring, who knows? But again, glad everybody is here. You know, our friends on the other side like to manufacture crises, and they'll let the insurrection go by without an investigation, but saying have a good weekend is a Democratic scandal that must be denounced. So, but be that as it may, we'll move on. Introduction of some of our people in the order that they appear. So Councilwoman Courtney Doyle is with us. Good morning, Courtney. Our great Congressman Bobby Scott. Our second Congressional District Chair, Sandra Brandt. Going down, Danica Royster from Council, good morning. Diane Kaufman from Senator Kane's office. Former Chair Linwood Fisher, former Chair Betty, you're on here, I know somewhere. There you are, Betty Potts. Jay Jones will be with us in a second. Joni Ivey, former Chief of Staff with Team Scott. Councilwoman Mamie Johnson, good morning. And Senator Spruill. And I think I got it. Did I miss any of our elected officials? No, great. Well, thank you so much for jumping on. As I said in the announcement, this is going to be our final pre-primary with a 757 twist. So Jay Jones will be jumping on here in a second to talk about his AG campaign, and around 9:30 we're going to hear from Andrea on her LG campaign. So with that said, welcome. Let's get going. First up, as I promised, Delegate Jay Jones. How you doing? How's everything going on the campaign trail?
I'm all right. Good morning, everybody. It is great to see you, albeit virtually. I was hoping that we could do this in person once before the primary on Tuesday, but I trust Charlie and I trust the executive committee's judgment on when we're going to do this in person again. But again, I bring you greetings on this last Saturday, GOTV Saturday, before these primary elections on Tuesday. I just have to say that it's been a whirlwind of the last couple of years, and I can't begin to say anything about this campaign without saying thank you to every single one of you who has been on this Zoom. You guys have been unflinchingly and unfailingly supportive of my efforts and what we've been trying to do in this campaign, and I can't begin to express my gratitude on behalf of myself, my wife, my family, my campaign, and the folks of the city of Norfolk and across this Commonwealth, because what we've been able to build over the last couple of years has been nothing short of incredible. As you guys know, we have been talking about justice reform. This has been the issue of the moment. It has been the issue of my time in the legislature, and it's been the mission of my life and my family's life. And we have a lot of work to do. We've seen a lot of progress, but we know we've got so much more work to do. That's why we released a justice reform plan just a couple of weeks ago that is forward-looking, solutions-oriented, and right there in front of us to be achieved. And so as we've been going around for the last couple of years, physically in 2019 and virtually and distantly in 2021, that message of justice reform has really resonated with people. And I'm so proud of the fact that we have been able to build a coalition that is so numerous at this point, from Governor Northam to Congressman Scott to Congresswoman Luria to Senator Spruill to former Attorney General Mary Sue Terry to Councilwoman Doyle, Councilwoman McClellan. everybody understands what's at stake here. And so I couldn't begin to say thank you enough to them as well for their support, for standing with us, because we've been able to do some remarkable things. I'm really proud of this, and I'm going to brag for just a second, because I don't think that anybody figured that a 32-year-old Black legislator from Norfolk could raise $2 million, could go toe-to-toe with the biggest and the baddest in a statewide Democratic primary, to have these endorsements, to have this support, to be on TV all over the place. We have built something incredibly special that will last for generations, and I'm so proud of that. And it really does feel very fitting to spend my last Saturday morning with you all, because it's always started with you guys and it will always end with you guys. And so I am so deeply, deeply appreciative. I'm happy to answer any questions. Charlie, I do kind of have to get on the road because we are moving today, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to say thank you to my friends in Norfolk. And I know you guys have probably all already voted at this point. And if you haven't, you're holding out for the magic of going on election day like normal on Tuesday. But all I ask is that you get your family, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, get out to vote. This is what makes us special as a Commonwealth. It's what makes us special as a country, this right to vote. You know, as someone who is the descendant of folks who had to pay poll taxes and take literacy tests and had their right to vote denied or abridged altogether, I know how important this is, and I know you guys do too. And that's why you know, we do these things. That's why this is so important. And so I just can't begin to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, but I do probably have time for maybe one or two questions, and then I do have to hit the road.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I know how busy it is, and just taking the time to jump on is greatly appreciated by the home team here. I don't know whose hand is raised. It just says or reads iPad. So whose iPad?
I think I see Carrie's hand raised.
Oh, Carrie, there you are. Okay.
Here, sorry, I hadn't gone and renamed my my device yet. The morning, Jay. So nice to see you again. You know, the Attorney General race is one of those races that I'm having a hard time deciding who to vote for, because I do think that Mark Herring has done a good job, and that he would continue to do a good job. And so I have some hesitation about voting against him and voting for you. And I love you, you know that. So the question that comes in mind for me is how we can, or one of the things that comes to mind for me is, in Norfolk, you know, we have the St. Paul's area project. And that to me is one of those areas that if the Attorney General didn't like how things were moving, that would be one of those areas that could be addressed by the Attorney General. So tell me about your thoughts on that type of issue.
Well, you know, look, I represent St. Paul's in the legislature. It is, you know, the concentration of our low-income housing communities here in this Commonwealth, in the city of Norfolk. And I go to church right there. I go to St. Mary's. And so I've been going, you know, into those neighborhoods for my entire life. There are still people who flag me down who say, your grandfather represented me, you know, 40, 50 years ago. So we understand the challenges that we face. And I will tell you, Carrie, that is a uniquely local and federal issue. There really is not a lot of role for the state in that particular type of project. However, I will say what we really are focused on and should be focused on, especially now as the eviction moratorium is going to get lifted here very, very soon, is that we keep people in secure housing and that we have affordable housing that's available for everyone. That is really important. And the Attorney General can step in that regard, because we want to make sure that there's no sort of discrimination when people are trying to find housing, right? We at the legislative level have made it a crime to discriminate based on people's source of income. So when we talk about vouchers and all that, how you pay for your particular housing. And so I think we've got to be finely attuned to that. Of course, we will keep our ears to the ground on what's happening in St. Paul's, but I think the broader issue that's going to face the Attorney General, not just immediately, but over the next, I'd say, couple of years, is housing. And I think there's a real role for that office to play. And so I talk a lot about civil rights, and that actually would fall under the civil rights division that I sort of foresee and hope to sort of spearhead and create once we get into that office, because, you know, whether it's in education, housing, healthcare, we've seen a lot of instances of discrimination and people not being treated as they should. And that to me is a place where we can really roll our sleeves up and get down and dirty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I just
All
want
right.
to say best of luck, and I hope we'll all unmute and say best of luck
Thank
to
you guys. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Best
All
of
right,
luck. Best of luck.
Thank
Best
you.
Jay.
of luck.
Appreciate you guys.
Take care, my
Yeah.
friend. Stay out there.
Yeah.
Finish line. We're almost there. All right, again, for him to take a little bit of time off to jump on the call is greatly appreciated, very much. Let's go to our federal side of things. Congressman Scott, nothing going on in Washington, right?
I hope you don't know something I don't. We're trying. I'm just going to be very brief because I think most of the comments ought to be made for the Tuesday election. We're still bragging about the rescue plan. I ran into a couple of school board members last night, and I learned that the Norfolk school board budget is about $300 and some million, and they're getting over $100 million from the rescue plan that they hadn't budgeted on.
Yay!
And I told them if there's an achievement gap after next year, I don't want to hear about it. I mean, that they have the money in low-income areas and problem areas to reduce the class size, assistant teachers, summer school, after-school programs. They have the money to do whatever they want to do to deal with the achievement gap. And so there's no excuses. And if they don't do something meaningful, we'll never be able to get this kind of money again. So we're still bragging about the rescue plan, and that was done. We're next working on the infrastructure plan, where we're talking about roads and bridges and tunnels and everything. But we're also talking about school construction, housing, and electric charging stations up and down the highway, broadband, things that they don't want in an infrastructure package. But if we're going to move forward, we need to have in the package, as well as in the families plan, daycare, early childhood education, and job training. If you expect people to go to work, you better have some daycare and some job training so they can do to have the skills to take advantage of the opportunities. It's all I don't know where it is. If you don't think we're doing anything, you might know something we're not. The Republicans are not excited. We have a little handful. Senator Capito from West Virginia is negotiating. And I think there's one little, I heard on the radio, there's one thing that's not mentioned about the significance of that. Even if she's only talking for 6 or 7 senators, so even if we agreed to her offer, she may not be able to deliver enough votes to pass it. The fact is, she's from West Virginia, and if she's for it, that kind of helps with Joe Manchin, and we may slide back to reconciliation and actually have 50 votes. So I think there's optimism that we can get something done. On the infrastructure part, the straight infrastructure part, we might go separate with a infrastructure package. A lot of the family plan is in the normal budget. The president's budget that was introduced is about over $1 trillion more than we would have expected, and that's because he's packed all of the family plan into it. The early childhood education, the daycare, the job training, and everything else is packed into the normal budget. And so if we can get a normal budget passed, we may be able to get the family plan passed that way. We don't know exactly what the strategy is going to be or what the Senate parliamentarian may accept under reconciliation if we go that way. But there's a lot on the table, and there's we're gradually coming out. We had a good jobs number. 200,000 is pretty good. We had 500,000 last I guess announced yesterday. So we're still working on this infrastructure plan, and hopefully we can get it done.
Yeah, it was also in that jobs report, Congressman, nice little uptick in personal income as well. So I think people are making more money at the jobs they're doing. So, yeah, and well, we'll go to a couple of questions. Yeah, I don't know. I've always thought, and I know the president, being the creature of the Senate, is trying to hammer out a deal, but I've always thought, boy, you get the 50 Dems in a room, hammer out a package and let her go with that. But they may end up trying to get there if they can get Manchin on board.
There is, Manchin has insisted that it would at least try to be
Yeah,
bipartisan.
right.
And I think there's value, to that. At least let it be shown that you tried.
Yeah.
I'm not optimistic, but
Right.
I think the fact that we can credibly say we tried, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Carrie?
Yes, Congressman Scott, the January 6th. And I think it's critically important that we have some sort of, and as much as we can, bipartisan.
Okay. Can I get your head in the window?
All right, let me see. Who is that?
Yeah, so I'm very disheartened with how the Republicans have gone and ended up saying that this will just end up being it's a political, they're saying it's just a partisan effort. And I think there's much more that needs to be looked at and investigated. So I'd like to know what's being done on that, because the Republicans have voted against it.
Well, the Democrats voted for it and tried to set it up. The Republicans in the Senate weren't for it. If you listen to what some of the Republicans said about it, they were disgusted about their colleagues. The problem is that if you had robbed a bank, you wouldn't want the bank robbery to be investigated. Fact is, a lot of them were involved in it, up to their elbows, and particularly President Trump. And it does not help Republicans or the people following Donald Trump to have his behavior on that day, much less the days before, investigated by a group that has subpoena power. So the fact that they're against it is not a surprise. They, particularly when you look and see that some of them voted to perpetuate the lie after the insurrection. So, I mean, that's just who they are. I think we're going to have some investigation, even if it's a select committee in the House just doing it. And if they complain, our response would be, shut up. We had a bipartisan, you didn't want it, and we're not gonna, you're just against all investigations, and we're gonna have an investigation whether you like it or not. I think probably the most likely is a select committee, or just tell Homeland Security to do it, or Intelligence Committee to do it, or Judiciary.
Right. Fan of the select committee. What comes around, goes around, comes around,
They had a Benghazi committee where there wasn't anything to investigate, and they wore that thing out and announced in advance. McCarthy was quoted got caught on tape saying that after as the Benghazi hearings were going on, Hillary Clinton's popularity was going down, which gave you an idea of what their motivation was. I think it's clear that the public needs to know in a comprehensive fashion what happened. Particularly, I mean, the astounding lack of preparation when all this information was on the internet is one thing, but at 1 o'clock, when a mob was overrunning the Capitol Police barricades, why did it take 4 hours to get back up? You had the Maryland National Guard ready to go, and he couldn't get authority to cross the state line. Why? And people haven't talked a lot about it, I think it was the Washington National Guard was released on the order of Vice President Pence. Vice President Pence is not in the chain of command.
Okay.
He just issued the order. The head of the National Guard must have known it wasn't a legal order, but said, okay, I'll accept the order and just go ahead. He went ahead and launched the defense. Why wasn't somebody in the chain of command able to do something within 15 minutes, much less 4 hours?
Yeah.
They don't want that investigated. And there's a lot of stuff that went on that they don't want to hear about, and so their opposition is not surprising. But there will be an investigation.
Good. Mariana?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much for all your hard work on education and labor. But I want to respond to your remark that with all the money being poured into education, it's just going to be expected that there's going to be an immediate improvement in the trauma that families have faced due to COVID, isolation, and Trump's hatefulness over these past few years mean that it's going to take time for us to rebuild. Trauma is not something you can just turn around overnight. And kids can't reach their full potential unless you really, so the money is beautiful. And I agree with you, all of the ideas that you have in terms of especially low in class size, that's huge. But I've been knocking on a lot of doors in this last month, and there's a lot of distrust of authority. And teachers are members of the authority structure. So we've really got to work together and make sure that we, first of all, provide continuous support to the families who are in trouble. And this eviction business is huge. To go back to Carrie's question, this is no time to get people out of their public housing when what I've been reading is there's no housing available out there. There are 100 candidates for every rental or purchase property. So we've got to keep people in where they are. And so that's huge because kids cannot reach their potential if they don't know where they're going to put their head the next night or that night. And so we really have to work together to make sure that we don't pit schools versus families. We're all in it together. And it's not going to be immediate. I've read things about Nevada, for instance, had a very high homelessness rate in the last few years. And that frequently follows the children for large chunks of their lives, the impact of that. So I am so thankful of all that you've done and all that Norfolk Public Schools has done to keep us safe. But I think we really have to continue to think about not short-term fixes, but how are we going to address systemic issues that affect our children? So again, thank you so much.
Well, there are a lot of things that affect a person's education, as you indicated: housing problems, healthcare, employment of the parents, daycare, and a lot of other things can have an effect. But the school systems need to use their imagination and do everything they can. The last year, when we put a 20% set aside for, quote, learning loss, all of it ought to be aimed at learning loss, but by having a specific 20% means they have to have a plan to address learning loss. And a lot of students, there's a thing called the summer slide, where low-income students regress about 2 months during the summer. They've been summer sliding for a year and almost a year and a half. So not only are they getting little or no education in the last year, some of them are a lot worse than they were a year ago. And here, so you got that year to make up, plus the normal advancement of a year. We have, in my judgment, removed money as an excuse. The school boards just have to do a heroic effort to make sure that these students don't, and some of them, the ones that graduated, may be permanently hurt because they've lost that year and didn't have a chance to make it up. The incoming seniors, you've got to get 2 years worth of learning in 1 year. And that you can, smaller class sizes, summer, after school, assistant teachers, special ed is getting additional money. That was a category that severely hurt during the pandemic. But we have to do everything we can, and the size of the money, and an additional an amount equal to about 1/3 of the school board's annual budget coming out of the blue, unallocated, ought to be sufficient to deal with this. Now, we were able to allocate the $120 billion that we spent on K through 12. We allocated it using the Title I formula, which meant that low-income areas, with the rich areas got peanuts, and the low-income areas got gold bars. I mean, I'm talking about many times, 10 times. I heard a piece on the radio that Falls Church was getting about $500 a student, and Danville was getting about $5,000 a student. That kind of differential, it did not come as a surprise to me, knowing what I know about other jurisdictions. Since we sent the money that way, hopefully the school systems will use the money with the spirit with which it was sent. We know you got problems with low-income students. Here's another 1/3 of your budget. You could hire additional teachers, additional assistant teachers, counselors, nurses, after school program. I mean, there's no limit to what you could do with that kind of money. And my hope is they don't mess it up and do stuff that they were trying to do before, painting a school building or something like that. We need to make sure that these students get the best education they can. And if they show good progress, we might be able to do it again. If they don't show good progress, we'll never see that kind of money again.
I hear you. Thank you. We'll try to make progress.
All right.
All right. Nick, you got something?
Yes, I would like to say good morning to Chairman Scott. I really wanted to thank you for the efforts you had on the American Rescue Plan. We're getting the Bush-Lewis Act passed. Pension protection for our members was very important. But today I wanted to talk about the PRO Act and your efforts in getting that passed as well. But my question is, have you talked to Senator Warner about the PRO Act? Because I'm sure that every labor member that's on this Zoom meeting has a real concern on that issue. Thank you, sir.
First on the pensions, you had over 1 million people whose pensions were going to evaporate, and that's about as cruel a thing as you can do to somebody. They worked all their life, they set aside, they took less money on the salary so they could have a secure retirement, and then through no fault of their own, it evaporates. No fault of anybody. I mean, you had the deregulation and the stock collapse in 08-09 stock collapse that you never recovered from, and then some lax regulation that allowed some pension funds to kind of skip by, slightly underfunded, so that when stuff happened, they were underwater. And you're talking arithmetic. It may take a couple of years, but if the rate they're going, they can't recover. And we were able to, and we calculated that the cost of doing nothing was about 2 or 3 times more than the cost of fixing it.
Sure.
Because if they lose their pensions, they're going to pay less in income tax. They're going to use SNAP benefits and Medicaid. And if you add that up, just a hit on the federal budget was about 2 or 3 times more in the next 10 years than what it would cost to fix it. And we fixed it without any cuts. One advantage in the Republicans not voting for it is you didn't have to sit down and negotiate with them. And so since they weren't around, there were no cuts. You know, we figured the bidding was starting at 5, probably end up at about 10% cuts in benefits. There were no cuts since the Republicans weren't there to insist on them. Say, well, we're going to do it with no cuts. And so everybody's pension survived unscathed, and we're very, very pleased with that. On the PRO Act, what am I doing to get it passed? Well, we got it passed in the House. I'm a member of the House, and it did mine. I believe that when it comes to a vote, Senator Warner will be with us.
It's like rinse and repeat. We got to pass it in the House.
Yep.
Yeah. Atoy. Still on here, Atoy? Got your hand up.
Oh, good morning, Congressman. Thank you so much for doing like everyone else. My question is, with everything that the states are doing to suppress and to suppress the vote, as well as reversing the will of the people, has there been any talk amongst the House about doing away with the Electoral College?
There's always talk about doing away with the Electoral College. The one problem that people don't talk about, they talk about the problems with the Electoral College. The only thing worse than the Electoral College would be, in my judgment, a straight up popular vote, where one advantage of the of the Electoral College is if you have a state that's overwhelmingly partisan one way, you don't have to worry about them cheating. They got it, don't worry about it. Once those votes are in play, Mississippi votes, you know, they start finding 10,000 votes here and 10,000 votes there. All the votes all over the country, if you had a close race and had a recount, you know, you see some of the foolishness going on in Arizona now, that would be going on all over the country. In the 2000 election, when Florida did a recount, can you imagine? I don't think people paid any attention to the fact that I believe it's New York and Texas, as the days went on, found boxes of 100,000 votes, adjusted their totals by 100,000. But nobody cared because New York was already soundly in the Democratic box, and Texas was soundly in the Republican box. And so nobody, you know, 100,000 here, 100 didn't matter. But if they were live votes that were affecting the national amount, you know, you don't know what you got. You don't want Catherine Harris tossing in votes, certifying vote totals that don't make any sense. In some states, certifying vote totals that exceed the registered votes in their state. You have to start with the idea that you got to have national standards for voting. You can't have a restricted vote, get out the vote in some states, and liberal get out the vote standards in others. It's got to be one standard. Until you get that straight, I think it's problematic. But the threat to democracy And if you see it on a state by state basis, the one thing that I think helped the election more than anything else is that Joe Biden had the common decency to win by at least 3 states, which meant that one state couldn't flip it by itself. He was working Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Michigan overtime. I think all of those legislators and officials were thinking, you know, if I do this crazy thing, Joe Biden still wins. So, but if Pennsylvania could have flipped it by itself, you know, you wonder what would happen in a national election where they start like in Texas, we're not going to count the Harris County drive-by votes after they voted. We're just not going to count them. Well, you know, they carried the Republicans carried the state. It didn't matter. But if they start discounting tens of thousands of votes here, and then Southern Illinois, rural parts of Illinois, they knock out 10,000 votes there, and then they start doing something. It's all of those votes are live votes in a national election. In an electoral college, once you've won the state, you don't have to worry. You can stop. You know, you have no more incentive to continue to cheat. So I don't know if that's really the target right now. That the target ought to be election officials who are willing to lie and cheat and accept the lie and do what Donald Trump says. I mean, that is the that is real threat to democracy, and I think the threat is real. If you look at what some of these guys were thinking about doing, it's you know, you just wonder what in the world is going on, and what is possible.
All right. Before I get to last question from LB, Andria McClellan has jumped on the road. So when we wrap this up, we'll bring her in to so she can give us an update on her LG race. So LB, you want to wrap up Congressman Scott's portion here?
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning to all. Good morning, Congressman Scott. I'd like to thank you for your efforts and the House efforts on collective bargaining. I'd like to give, if you could give us an update where we are with the recent advances in the state of Virginia on collective bargaining. So I agree with my friend Nick. Where are we at with on the national level of getting collective bargaining on a national level?
I'm not sure exactly where. If you're talking about the PRO Act has passed the House and it's over in the Senate. On the state level, they've made changes, and Lionel can probably give you a better idea of what they've done on the state level. They've made it easier to recognize for the public unions, easier to be recognized. But I'm not sure exactly which what status you're looking for. The public union, the legislation on public unions has been, I can tell you, it was percolating along pretty nicely to try to deal with the Janus decision until George Floyd was killed, and somebody noticed that some of the provisions on discipline would be problematic if applied to police officers. I think it has been decided that police officers will not be part of a public negotiation bill if we're going to have one.
Okay, that's where I was going with it. Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Thank you, Congressman Scott.
All right, thanks again, Congressman. Now, from somewhere, maybe on I-64, hopefully not stuck in traffic, Andria McClellan, what's going on in the LG race?
Hey guys, well, we just left the Williamsburg Farm Market and I'm heading to Newport News to knock doors with Shelley Simons for the next couple of hours. I'll be in Virginia Beach from 1 to 2 today with Councilwoman Sabrina Wooten. And then we'll be heading Portsmouth, Chesapeake, and ending the day in our lovely hometown of Norfolk to close out the polls for the last day of early voting. And then heading over to MJ's for a Pride event. So another fun day on the trail. Listen, we are so excited about Tuesday. I think if you happen to have seen the poll that came out yesterday, the Roanoke College poll, 45% of voters are still undecided in the lieutenant governor's race a week out. So I think it's anybody's race, and I think we are in great position. I really appreciate all the great support that we've gotten from Hampton Roads, particularly from my friends in Norfolk. So thank you guys for being such great supporters. And if you'd like to volunteer, we would love to have more folks at the polls on election day because we know a lot of people are going to show up. They're not going to be decided. Hopefully they will have known and heard of Andria McClellan by now for the work that I've done here in Norfolk in the Hampton Roads region. We're pumped, and I would love to invite, we had O'Connor's Brewery. Doors will open at 6:30, and I will be there sequestered somewhere in the back, and I probably won't be out until we have the results. Hopefully we'll have the results quickly, but thank you guys for the opportunity to just check in.
Yeah, the connection wasn't that great. Where is the event on Tuesday night?
The event on Tuesday night is at O'Connor's.
O'Connor's, okay.
In Norfolk. Doors open at 6:30, and
Okay.
We have a free beer for the first 75 folks who are there. And we will have food from Omar's, and should be a fun party, and hopefully it will be a great celebration.
Okay, great. We appreciate it. I'll see you there.
Sounds good. Take care, guys. Be careful. Be safe.
Okay, stay safe.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the state, Senator Spruill, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir. How you doing today?
Doing fantastic.
Well, let me hop into it. First of all, we are talking about going back in session in August. Reason being, number one, Court of Appeals. We have at least 7 judges that we are going to vote on for the Court of Appeals. And right now, we're working on where they are coming from. Northern Virginia, of course, won all of them. You know that. That's their style. But the one that I have in Norfolk Court is probably the best #1 pick across the state by their peers. They have a committee of judges and lawyers who appoint these guys as far as their qualification. So the one that I have in Norfolk. So what I did, I worked with Northern Virginia, said, just give me one. I don't want 2, just give me one. So we have one in Norfolk who is in the top running. So we are going back in August for that. Secondly, we are going back all this money that Congressman Scott was talking about. I just love Bobby Scott to death. Thank you so much. All this money. And Bobby, and we were talking about it at the Senate caucus. I want something for my house. I want a brand new car. Bobby Scott needs a brand new car. I mean, we were going crazy on all this money. We said, hey, wait a minute. So what do I want? 2 things for the city of Chesapeake and Norfolk. They need money for schools. Now, first of all, I told my kids, 3 out of 4 education, don't go into education. They don't pay enough money. That's why my grandkids eat at my house all the time. So my kids, you got to have, especially this day and time, you got to pay teachers a decent salary. We're still 48 out of 100. Okay, we got to do that. Also, because this epidemic is going on, guess what? We said, we got to treat our bus drivers fairly now. The bus drivers say, hey, we didn't realize that. It's just a bus driver. But guess what now? The bus driver now is important. Get the teachers a raise, bus drivers. And also we're talking about those dilapidated schools across the state. They need to be replaced. The worst school system we have right now is on the Eastern Shore, okay? that Norfolk have some, Chesapeake have some, but on the Eastern Shore. So we are saying, we just thank Congress for all this money, and we are fighting on what we can do with it. So we decided to say the schools and mental health, they are top priorities as far as what we want to do with it. Then other things coming down the line, but we thought maybe it was that. And of course, everybody was always saying, always a good campaign pitch is education, education. No. We were saying, let's look into it. And we have found out that, yes, there are certain parts of education that really needs it. Now, the second thing we're looking at, the next thing is redistricting. We are looking at the redistricting because next year, we're going to draw the lines. I'm fighting like hell to make sure that I keep Chesapeake and Norfolk intact. I think I'm about 4,500 votes short. I got to find them from somewhere. So I'm just trying to find out exactly. So that's going to be very listened to as far as in the House and the district. I believe Bobby might be right. Maybe Congress, I believe, on that, I think. But as far as the redistricting, we're looking at next year. So when I run for re-election, we're all up again in 2023. We don't know exactly where we will be as far as my lines. So I'm hoping with that, you need your help on that. That's important. Marijuana, July 1. You can smoke a marijuana, what they call it, a joint. I'm old school. This is a joint. Help me out, child. I don't know. I'm old school.
Hey, what do you think I know?
Oh, I apologize. But I heard the joint. I heard kids talk about it. I don't know what a joint is because I'm old fashioned. But anyway, July 1, you can smoke marijuana. I'm saying they can't lock you up for it. But be careful. Now they were saying to me, well, I want to say in the Senator Spruill, I can grow some plants. You can't grow the plants. No. We have a committee. And that committee across the state, and what they are doing was saying, look at the rules and regulation, how you can grow plants as far as the small business can get involved in it, the large business can get involved in it. But as far as in your house, Charlie, since I love you, you can't have but 4 plants, Charlie, in your house, okay? And you can't rent me a room. And I was saying, I got an apartment in Charlie State in the house. I want to have 4 plants. You can't do that. You're going to jail. Only 4 plants. But they are working on the rules and regulation to get this started in 2024. All right? So that's really important. So let y'all know, really important. Now, just because the law has passed that you can smoke, somebody got to tell me what a joint is. I heard of it. Well, whatever it is, because you can smoke it, that don't mean you can have a kilo of stuff in your car and drive and saying it's mine. I can smoke, it's mine. Courtney helped me out with that. Asked you help me out there. I don't know what that means, but we're trying to get folks to understand because I spoke in the civil lit and the young man said, well, I got a bag. Again, I apologize, y'all. I don't know what that means by bag, but he said, I got a bag of, I know a kilo is a whole lot. I know that much. But I said, no, you can't do that. So I want y'all to know, just because you can smoke marijuana cigarette, that don't mean you can drive down the interstate with the whole big bag. You go to jail, okay? So you can't do that. But we're saying this. Lastly, just because you're driving and the state troop police stop you, that don't mean he say, I can smell marijuana, then you're going to jail. No, it won't happen that way, okay? So that's important. So that's what we're doing now. So we're going back in August to look at all this money that Congressman Scott gave us. So with that, Bob, you got my vote for another term. All that money. We're going back to look at the redistricting, exactly where we will be in the next 2 years. We're going back to look at all that money we got. We're talking about money for education, money for education. We're talking about rebuilding schools. We're talking about giving teachers a raise. We're talking about the bus drivers. We're talking about the people in the low income jobs. And we're talking about the appellate judge. That's really important. So that's where we are right now in the General Assembly, asking y'all to stay on top of it. And if I could do anything to help, let us know. But I want you to know again, I can't say this enough, that through the Congress, Senator Scott, that all this money we got in the state, we are going crazy. I want to really thank Bobby. I can call him that. He knows he's an honorable congressman. Really thank him and the people in Richmond. And thank you in Norfolk. Please, please keep pushing us on education. And we got to make sure that my friend Courtney Doyle and the city council get the money to help out the school boards. So don't give council so much of a hard time, because we don't give it straight to the school board. I think we give it to the city council. I believe that's how it's done. And then that might Courtney give it to city council, and then they give it to where it's supposed to be. So that's where we are at this point. So asking y'all to please stay on top of it, push us. And the last thing, I don't care what nobody say, make sure that Spruill and all of us do our job, what you want us to do. We will try anyway. I'm not gonna always be that 100%, but I'm gonna try my best to. And that's what I'm saying, that I'm here for you. And that anybody can run for office, but what have you tried to do for the community? So these are our issues that we're looking at in August, and we're going back again in January. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Senator. And I guess one quick question from Carrie before we move on to city council folks.
Yes, Senator Spruill, you mentioned the redistricting, and I know that there's a commission and they've been meeting. Some of the conversations from the redistricting committee are a little concerning, but so when you talk about redistricting and what you were looking at or interested in, how is that going to marry up with what the commissioner's doing, or is the House of Delegates and the state Senate trying to influence some of the process that's going in, or what's going on with that?
That's why we try to get an independent commission, some members of the House and members in the Senate, and majority of them outside who are not part of this. We should let them do it, because if we had my way, and I'll be honest, if I had my way, everybody on this Zoom call, you can support me, you could be in my district. As simple as that. You can't do that. So that's why we have majority of the members are not a member of the House and the Senate, and we want an independent, and then it has to come back to the House and the Senate, and we can look at it again to make sure it's done fair. And we finally agree, because we were fighting on both sides of the aisle on how we can get it done. And we finally agree on this commission that both sides, the House and the Senate, and Republicans and Democrats agree that we thought maybe have a fair commission to get together to bring back to us a fair deal.
Great. All right. Thanks again, Senator.
Charles, somebody gotta answer my questions. I have somebody to tell me what a joint is. Come on, help me out, somebody, so I would know.
I'm offended because people told me I wouldn't be able to grow it, a plant, because I don't have a green thumb. So yeah, I got my own cross to bear here, Senator.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, but I have no idea what a joint, a blunt, a doobie, or any of those terms mean.
I know Bobby know. He just won't say it.
Well, let me just say this. I was in college in the late 1960s. And anybody who was in school with me, they did a survey and found that 60% of the students who are in school with me admit to smoking marijuana. Another 40% lied about it.
Well, Bob, at that time in the 60s,
I'm part of the 40%. No, I didn't smoke.
I'm with you, but during that time, I thought I wanted to be a preacher at that time, but I cussed too much, so I couldn't be a preacher, so I didn't smoke either.
All right. With that comedic toss, moving on to Councilwoman Johnson. Hey, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, all. Thank you. I would like to say this has been a very informative session this morning. Congressman Scott, I would just like to say to you, sir, if I could take your words that you presented to us this morning about all of the money that is coming to the school system, I would wrap it up and bundle it, because you said exactly what needed to be said concerning the money that's coming in. As chairman for Virginia First Cities, which is the intergovernmental institute that supports all cities and towns and counties across the state of Virginia, that was a part of our big discussion yesterday in conducting my meeting. The amount of money that is going to the school system. And as a Norfolk City Councilwoman, I still encourage citizens that you need to know where the money is going concerning Norfolk Public Schools, all school systems. I know that people still think that City Council controls the school boards. We do not. We cannot tell them how to spend the money. It is the citizens who can help guide that. So I'm looking for more citizens' participation in how the money will be spent. And Norfolk Public Schools, according to my report yesterday, is getting hundreds of millions of dollars to the school system. And that is a lot of money. And Norfolk Public Schools does have many needs, but I think as we move forward, we need to plan into the future. Yes, we also have to plan as far as going into the future. You mentioned, Congressman Scott, about the report card. Yes, I'm monitoring as well as you are how does with the money, these hundreds of millions of dollars that they are spending. And Norfolk City Council is always willing to work with our school system. We have a partnership, but one thing that the city is doing, we're continuing with bettering our communities while we wait for Norfolk Public Schools to make some decisions as we move forward. There is a great need. And I, for one, do not like to hear North Side, East Side, and that divides our city, but together we can get things done. So thank you, Mr. Charlie, and to all of you for participating this morning in our decision-making process for our great city of Norfolk and beyond. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And we'll kind of bundle any questions once all members of council have chatted with us. So Councilwoman Doyle.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see everybody, and I look forward to seeing everybody in person. Congressman Scott, as many have said, thank you very much from a local level on the way the federals are really looking out for us with this rescue plan money. You know, you mentioned the schools we have they got 113 million in the last round, and the city actually is going to receive 154 million. And we look forward to hearing from the administration of their recommendations of where we could wisely spend that money as well. So, you know, this is generational. This is something we will never see again in our lifetimes. And so it's a huge opportunity, and I look forward to all of it propelling Norfolk even further ahead in a positive way. And it's in large part to the support of you all that makes all of this happen, because of your activism in our community. So I just want to thank you all as residents and citizens of Norfolk as well. We did pass a really good budget in early May, and I'm thrilled to say that I'll just do a few highlights. There's a 3% increase of salaries for employees for the city of Norfolk. And on average, there will be an 8% increase for our police officers. On average, there'll be an increase of 5% for sworn sheriffs. And our dear 911 operators who save our lives every day are going to get a 6.7% increase, which is great. Business Concierge, I see our dear City Treasurer Daun Hester is on. From the day I started on City Council, I've been advocating for a business concierge or a business navigator position in the city. And that's a position where any size business can come to this individual, whoever it may be, and say, I need help in permitting, zoning, business licensing, whatever it is, how do I navigate the city so that I'm doing what I need to do business in Norfolk? And what I was long hearing is that we were very difficult as a city to do business with. And so we now will have this new position that's going to work as an advocate for the businesses and be a liaison with the Commissioner of the Revenue, the Treasurer's Office, zoning, planning, whatever entity, economic development. So I'm thrilled to see that position come forward. And then, we're also very much focused on our flooding and sea level rise. And I don't know if Andrea is still on or not, but of course, she would agree wholeheartedly that we need to continue funding these efforts wholeheartedly. And then I will also add, we're looking at clearly areas, for instance, like downtown, the Neon Streetscape area, the Neon District. There was money set aside for that, 4.9 million, which is going to go to improving that area. It's basically north of Brambleton to Virginia Beach Boulevard, and it will extend that Granby Street corridor. We're very much focused on our schools and school construction. And Tommy Schmigel and I were asked by the mayor to serve as a liaison to Norfolk Public Schools in looking at their school construction and modernization. And so I know that the school board put forward or at least the school division presented a plan last Wednesday at their school board meeting that looked at that. And so we look forward to working with them and seeing how we can help finance some of these projects moving forward. To the very point earlier made about school construction modernization and the four walls, what is it we can do to help improve those here in Norfolk? So those are just a few highlights. It would be remiss of me if I did not finish by saying, for those who haven't gotten vaccinated, please do. We're in the vaccine hesitancy stage. There are those that know that the supply is there, they're just not getting it. Please encourage those folks to get it. Virginia right now is at about a 45.7% vaccine rate. We really need to have that go up to get herd immunity. So that's my soapbox on the vaccine. So stay well, everybody. Thanks for having me today. Cheers.
Thanks, Courtney. And moving down to our newest member of council, Danica Royster. Hello.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for having me here. I echo my colleagues as I thank Congressman Scott and Senator Spruill for everything that they do to support our great city of Norfolk. Some brief highlights that I have is Councilwoman Doyle had mentioned we did pass the budget, and I was overjoyed to say that a part of our budget was addressing equity as relates to our roads. So with that, the budget was approved the Campostella Bridge Rehabilitation Project, which is a $6 million project that's going to start late 2021 and should be completed late 2022. That's going to include structural repairs to the expansion joints, curb, sidewalk, railing, and weatherproofing, along with new lane markings for the Campostella Bridge. Along with that, another update, as many of you all know, if you had a chance to turn on your TV yesterday, was a great press release day and a press day for the Berkeley Supermarket over on the South Side, which is scheduled to open September 2021. Something that I was happy to be a part of as it relates to passing, but it was something that was well overdue as we talk about food disparity and food deserts in our city. And I'm so happy that I was able to join my colleagues in seeing that come to fruition. So mark your calendars for September 2021 for the Berkeley Supermarket opening. Another update that I also had was in regards to the St. Paul's Advisory Committee and the St. Paul's project regarding Tidewater Gardens. I was able to champion a partnership with Tidewater Community College and People First to connect Tidewater Garden residents with the various tuition assistant programs offered by TCC. They're not only going to be having on-site registration there for those who either want to pursue a 2-year degree, but also a certification. As you've heard me repeat it and say it in the past, we can't just focus on infrastructure. We have to focus on an investment in the individuals and the residents of Tidewater Gardens as well. I also would be remiss if I didn't mention my super ward. When I say someone who was included in my super ward, Councilwoman Mamie Johnson, and the grand opening of the Broad Creek Legacy Park. And I didn't want to steal her shine, but I was like, Councilwoman Johnson, this was a great great venture. It's one of the in our city. So those are my updates, as well as trying to see if there's anything else. Oh yes, we have a transit town hall that's going to be held on June 10th to address the bus routes. As many of you had probably remembered that we did have a vote on that earlier this year, and a big component of the reason why myself that I voted no was regarding the outreach that had been done, or the lack of, and making sure that everyone's voice is heard when we're making decisions about transit, especially for those who depend solely on public transportation, and making sure that those routes are equitable and they're meeting the needs of the citizens who need them. And with that, once again, thank you all for having me. And I'm turning it over to you.
We'll get to some questions that the three of you can fight over who might answer them. But I just want to chime in here. I think it's wonderful that that last little bit of eyesore on the waterfront is being taken care of. I saw where with some of the was it the Brown Water Grants or something like that, but they're putting a nice park in there between the baseball stadium and the parking garage, because that is an eyesore, and that's going to really make that waterfront nice. So thanks everybody for making that happen.
Yeah, Charlie, I'll just add, Charlie, that construction starts in June. It'll finish in September. It's a great video on YouTube if you haven't already seen it. And you're right, it was from the Brownfield grant funding. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So that'll be nice. I walked by that many times and just look at it. Yeah. But anyway, all right, Mariana, got a question for council?
Yes, thank you. I really want to see the libraries reopen as quickly as possible. That's a huge equity issue, especially during the summer. Parents depend on the libraries and their reading programs to help, keep kids from losing too much of that learning that they do lose over the summer. So I hope that will be a real priority here. It's just hugely important to our families.
Yeah, so Mariana, both the libraries and the rec centers are intended to be open, that are already today open starting July 1. Of course, we need to hire folks if they're not already there. But yeah, there was a good plan presented on both recreation centers and libraries that we would begin opening those up come July 1. So thank you for your advocacy.
And also, if I could add, Miss Mariana, that there is an updated list of the libraries that will be coming online, as well as what our proposed plans are for the recreation parks and open space. And we're very excited. In our anchor branch libraries, we'll be able to provide activities and programs for our citizens and their families. And with the smaller libraries, accessibility, browsing, and things such as that. But please check out the list, the new updated list that was just compiled and that I included in my Ward 3 newsletter. So I look forward to you seeing that. Thank you, Miss Mary Anna.
Thank you. And you pointed out the accessibility issue is so critical to so many families that they can't necessarily drive long distances to libraries. So having the little local branches open are very important too. Thank you so much. I'll check that out.
Yeah. Nick.
Yes, good morning, council members. I do have a couple of questions. One is about public sector bargaining in the city of Norfolk. How do you all feel on that? And also, as it pertains to the rec centers, we in the East Ocean View Civic League area were concerned that you all were going to go the Virginia Beach model with rec centers, shrinking them down to a certain amount for the whole city and closing all the satellite locations. If we can get some information on that, that would be great. Thank you.
Nick, sorry, I didn't hear your first question. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Neither did I.
Yeah, collective bargaining for city employees, I believe.
For public sector, yes.
Public sector, okay.
Well, I think at this point, and I'll, can share the floor with my colleagues here. I think that the city administration is looking at, various options that they could present to us on that topic. And I do think that globally, I know all of us on council very much value the great team members for the city of Norfolk. They are so hardworking, and certainly during this time of COVID, they are the unsung heroes. I will tell you, from seeing folks in Berkeley yesterday when I was at the Berkeley Shopping Center, to neighborhoods that I represent, to across the city, these folks are working tirelessly on weekends, nights, days, holidays. I mean, literally on weekends. Last weekend alone, I'll give you an example. There was a significant sidewalk cave-in that I got an email about. And so I emailed the folks at the city and said, please help this resident who's brought this to our attention. Within hours on a Saturday, they were out there patching the sidewalk, doing what they needed to do, when frankly, they were probably not supposed to be working on a Saturday, but maybe they were on call, but they were doing great work. So, I just appreciate the good work of our team members. And I know that the administration is looking at various options. And Mamie, I don't know if you want to add anything, or Danica.
I would just like to say that the city council is very interested in looking at other models across the Hampton Roads area, as all of us will need to address this, Mr. Jones, to be able to sit down and have some discussion about the possibilities. There are many considerations that we have to look at. And as my colleague just mentioned, we are very thankful to have the employees that we have in the city of Norfolk, as well as in all of Hampton Roads areas. So we're really looking at what the city administration, the information that they're going to provide to city council to help guide us through making the decisions concerning collective bargaining, as well as having the workers at the table as well, to hear what they have to say, because they're the ones who are out here doing the job every day, 6-7 days a week. They are working on the weekends, and we cannot say thank you enough to them. So Mr. Jones, just to let you know, we're gathering the information, because this is going to be a decision that will not only impact the workers' lives, but it will also impact the lives of citizens and workers across the state of Virginia, which means all of the localities. So thank you for asking that great question, Mr. Jones.
All right, Betty, you want to weigh in on something?
Yes, I just want to piggyback on a question that was asked about the resource centers and libraries across the city of Norfolk. First of all, I'll back up and thank all of our leaders that's on the call today. You all have done an outstanding job through COVID, showing up for these meetings, as well as the citizens on this call who have taken time out of their lives to also continue to work for their communities. That being said, I see quite a few people on this call from the south side of Norfolk. So I intend to follow up on the libraries that are on that list, but I would like to address this question to Councilman Mamie Johnson and Councilwoman Danica Royster. Do you recall or remember seeing any libraries listed from the south side of Norfolk on that list?
Part of that. I know from the conversations that I had that one of the libraries that we were planning for is going to be the new Richard Tuck Library that's going to be opening on the south side. for that to be added to the list of libraries that will be open and accessible. One thing I can do is double check the actual date that that's going to be projected to be open and in full service. As it was previously mentioned, one of the things that was holding back, it's not necessarily a matter of finance, it's a matter of staff and having our capabilities to staff the libraries at the capacity that they need to be, being one of the issues or the problems that we were having to address. But I can double check and look into when the opening date of the Richard Tuck Library will be, and if it's expected to be open at full capacity for those on the south side.
Okay, thank you. What about the resource centers?
I'm not 100% sure about the resource centers, but I can look into that. I know one of the discussions that we had in regards to the South Side was the utilization of the South Side Boys and Girls Club, because there was a concern regarding the ability to use the computers. So I know that we were utilizing the South Side Boys and Girls Club, and we're going to have specific hours set up for not only the youth there, but specifically for the seniors and others who might need to use that as a place not only to gather and have meetings, but also utilize it as that might be someone's only source of internet access. So that's something that I can look into to see where we are regarding those as well.
Okay, thank you for that. And as you can see, my picture there is a picture of the Campostella Bridge. And I use that picture to represent how in the past that in the city of Norfolk, on the south side of Norfolk, it's almost like a city within a city. And we have gotten some tremendous support from the city of Norfolk, but we would like to, going forward, especially post-COVID, to address some of the unaddressed issues with resources. And there have always been problems with technology, resources, recreation, and we would like to continue to build on that. So thank you for chiming in and your responses, and we look forward to follow up.
And Charlie, if I could just briefly say something to Ms. Potts. Thank you for your question, but also thank you for letting us know what your needs are. It is always important because if you look in certain areas in our city, we are divided by tracks and bridges, tracks and bridges. So when you look at the south side, it does seem as though it's its own little city that somehow is connected to the rest of the city by this bridge. But I can assure you, Ms. Potts, in making the decision, Southside is always thought of because of strategically plan. In our plan, address the South Side with the understanding that we're one city, we're one. No matter where you live, we are one. All of the communities are one. The city is one as a whole. We will always be that. And that's my philosophy. When we were going through COVID and looking at the resource centers, the libraries, and ARPOs, we wanted to make sure that there was a boots on the ground type of action plan that the citizens and their families could have access within walking distance within their own community so that they could continue to receive the resources. So City Council is very aware of how we have to bring it all together to address the needs of the South Side, and that you're not a separate community, that we're one. And thank you so much for continuing to let us know what your needs are and working with us to get it done.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Great.
Johnson.
And yeah, I see you there. We have a few more questions up there for council, but what I wanted to do, if I could just make, she's been so patient. Our super treasurer, Daun Hester, and I know today's kind of an important day, but so before I go back to those three questions, Dawn, you want to fill us in?
Thank you, Charlie. I have had such a hard time with my connection today, so I was just hoping that I would still be able to be on. Hello, everybody, and it's always good to hear you and see you. Just want to let everyone know, well, first off, you know, those bills that we send, they're due today. So personal property, real estate, the drop boxes are available. You can drop your payment or do it online. But I wanted to announce that on Wednesday, June 9th, the office will open again to the public. The treasurer's office will open without appointments. So you are able to come in between 8:30 and 3:45 to transact business if you need to. You will, I don't know if Blythe is on the call, you will need to make an appointment to meet, especially for for all services, with the Commissioner of Revenue. And our hours will be the same, but we will open to the public on Wednesday, June 9th at 8:30 to 3:45. So if you can help us get the word out, press releases will go out from the city on all media forms from marketing and communications, I believe on Monday or Tuesday, to let everyone know. It has, yes, been a challenging time. I want to thank all of you who have adjusted as we've learned how to work remotely. It is a good way to operate, but we know that many of you just like to come down and meet and see face to face. And so we will open again. Please wear your mask when you come in, because we don't know who's vaccinated and who isn't, and we want to continue to stay safe. And I want to keep my team safe so that they can keep coming into work and to serve you. But it has been wonderful trying. We've learned a lot about ourselves and about our organization. And we will continue, as always, to work hard for you. So if you have any questions, I'll stay on as long as my connection will last. If I drop off, Charlie, you can just text me the questions and I can give you answers. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I saw you zipping in and out. So yeah. All right. Yeah, look at Phil. You get both the fake hand and the real hand there.
Thanks, Charlie. I wanted to chime in also. Thank you, Councilwoman Johnson, Councilwoman Courtney Doyle, and Councilwoman Royster for giving us some updates on the city. I wanted to also, I had some of the same questions that the other members did about the rec centers, but just to be specific, I would like to see that list because there was a lot of advocacy before the budget was passed to make sure that we did open those rec centers, all of them if possible. And I know you all are trying to work towards that. Ingleside, I'm going to mention a few, but Ingleside, and there's not just limited to those, but Ingleside Rec Center, it's like about 4,000 square feet, but we always would have a summer camp that would be full early. I mean, the parents would sign their children up and it would go until late August. So those camps are critical for our students, our children. We've been having, even with us reopening, we've noticed that we've had these troops of bikers who are driving motor vehicles or motorcycles, ATVs on regular roads, and they're not being stopped. It's not safe, but we're gonna see more of that in a week and a half when school gets out. School is about to end for the regular session. Then we're gonna go into summer school and other enrichment programs, but we need our rec centers open. The gym needs to be open, Sherwood Forest, Fairlawn, all of those centers, and I've heard other ones on the south side as well. We need all of those community centers open. Young Terrace Community Center needs to be open. So whatever we can do to do that, and I know a lot of the young people are trying to get jobs. Those who, I had family members who were working part-time for the rec centers, and they are trying to get their jobs back. But if the city could post that information and put it in the marketing for media, for the news media, telling people to apply. I was told that the deadline is June 10th. for applying for those jobs. That's what I got a link and I sent it out to other young people that I know who are attending Norfolk State, other colleges and universities, and they need to get back to work too, to contribute to our economy. So those are two things I really wanted to make sure that that were addressed. And then, like I said, the safety with the troops of young people who aren't wearing helmets and they're popping wheelies and they're speeding through the streets in the city of Norfolk, not just in one neighborhood, in all of the neighborhoods. And I know that was addressed at the town hall last month, and I'm looking forward to the transit town hall. So I will be there, but thank you all so much for what you're doing to be advocates. And I'm with you. As you can see, I'm running for city council, but that, you know, I'm running too. Thank you.
All right. All right. I got to admit, Bob Z, that's a new name. Want to introduce yourself? And we got about 2 minutes to wrap this up on time. So we can get through these last two questions, a minute each. That'll be great. Are you still on here, Bob Z? All right, Bob Z, if you can figure it out. Carrie?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are.
All right. Hey, thank you. I just want to say I have about one issue. Thank you guys for coming up here and providing this forum. It's been really informative. One of the things, I want to address the one Norfolk mantra, if you will. And while it sounds good, I've lived in Norfolk all my life, and it's never been one Norfolk. The socioeconomic disparities in this city, the educational resources and buildings it's not one Norfolk. It's not one Norfolk, and that's just my statement. But my question is, it kind of goes with the whole one Norfolk, I guess, idealism. The gym lots. Now, I was told a lot of different things from the real estate office. One was that, and I saw that the developer had given money to Huntersville, and which is great, but I didn't want that to seem like a buy-in. You have to be a developer. The gym lots is really murky and unclear whether these lots will be. Well, I was told it was a moratorium on it, and then I found out the developers were buying the land. So my question is to any council members who can probably field this question is, when will the gym lots in areas like Huntersville, which has a plethora of these lots, be available to residents or a group of residents? Or will it just be business as usual where you get your developers and developers benefit, but regular citizens are kind of left out? And I think a lot of that type of mentality has created those disparities that I previously spoke about.
Who wants to tackle that?
So please let me address the part about one Norfolk. Mr. Z, you and I both grew up in Huntersville, the community of Huntersville, and I'm proud to come from Huntersville. And my philosophy as far as one community, one Norfolk, is the work and the amount of money that is going into building the communities in the city of Norfolk. As Ward 3 representative, I work extremely hard for not only my constituents in Ward 3, but for every citizen throughout the city of Norfolk. So things are changing. The things that happened in the past, maybe before I was born, while I was growing into adulthood, I do understand that as being part of Norfolk history. But now I can address a new history for the city of Norfolk. A new legacy is being created in the city of Norfolk. So if I were to continue to dwell on what has happened in the past, then Norfolk would never move forward. And I can tell you that we are moving forward as an entire city. So my words about One Norfolk, I'm going to stand by that because of the work that I do as Ward 3 representative and as a Norfolk City Council person who represents all citizens in the city of Norfolk. So I would encourage you to get involved about what is happening in different neighborhoods in the city of Norfolk, as you refer to as those communities that have been long forgotten. It will take all of us to make the change in the city of Norfolk. So I'm not going to change my philosophy about One Norfolk, one community. And the residents of Ward 3 clearly understand what their representative means when she says, one, we are one. When one community prospers, we all prosper.
So I'll take your second question. And Bob, I completely agree with Mamie. We are One Norfolk. While we may represent a certain ward or a super ward, there are 8 of us that represent everyone. And so I'm very proud to know that. And, you know, Mamie and I and Danica and others work very closely. I mean, Mamie and I drive around all over town and frankly, look at each other's projects and say, how can I help you? And that is very common. So answering that one. And then to your point about the gem lots, there are a lot of actually vacant lots that the city owns all over town. And that's another thing that I noticed early on when I served on council. And so the city manager, Chip Filer, through this last budget cycle, has created what's called, and I'm literally looking at my budget documents as we speak, a housing and community development kind of department. And Trista Pope serves as the overseer of real estate. And she and the city manager are working on how we work through basically selling those lots as appropriately and equitably and fairly and as quickly as possible. So I don't have the exact detail of it because Mamie, I think, and Danica, I don't think we've been made clear the exact process yet, but Chip is working through that as the city manager. But I thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Just to echo off my colleagues, specifically Councilwoman Doyle, so I've had conversation, I know with you, Bob, amongst others, regarding the gem lots and the lack of opportunity persons feel as relates to attainability and being able to purchase those lots. So I've had some conversation with the city manager, as I will continue to have conversation with him and bring my colleagues into the loop regarding how can we create a policy that's equitable and also allows people to have an opportunity who wish to purchase. Because as you know, one of the things that we're looking to address is creating affordable housing and creating housing opportunities for those who seek them. So, you know, as you mentioned, it's been years and years of things that have not happened, but we're all at the table together trying to make good decisions going forward and how we can make it not only accessible for those, but also make it so that we're able to meet people where they are regarding price points for these lots so that they're able to build homes and not all of them just get gobbled up by developers. So I appreciate the question and I appreciate the accountability on holding us to the fire as it relates to what are we doing as a council, as well as what are we doing as a city to provide more affordable housing opportunities for the citizens in Norfolk. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, we are running along. Carrie, quickly.
Yes, I wanted to, thank Councilwoman Johnson. She offered a tour to a commission for both the Lindenwood Elementary School and Pollard, the Pollard Street local park that they have. And I have to say that what the city has done with Lindenwood Elementary and having the a shoreline, a living shoreline, and the trees, the community garden being put in is just a tremendous asset. And there are some real hidden gems in areas of Norfolk that I just don't really get too often. So thank you very much. And Councilwoman Doyle mentioned the vaccination issues. There were 2 things that I've come across in recent discussions on COVID vaccines and mask policies. One is that people don't understand why if they're not vaccinated, why they're being asked to continue to wear masks and why others are not. So they don't, because they know that the masks aren't protecting themselves, and they're not thinking necessarily about the fact that they're able to transmit the disease. And then there's, yes, still some hesitancy when it comes down to the fact that we're in an emergency use authorization. So I think key messages being developed around those thoughts may end up assisting us in getting our vaccine numbers up. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree, Carrie. It's a little messy right now with the kind of the unwinding of the policies and the guidelines coming from both the federal, the state, and then the Department of Labor and Industry. So I do acknowledge that. And, we see that in Centerra, we see that in our communities, we see it throughout. And I think over time it will become clear, but you make two very valid points. So thank you.
And Ophelia.
Thank you, Charlie. Very quickly, Democrats have always embraced diversity, equity, and inclusion. To that end, our governor did a wonderful thing last year in establishing that Juneteenth will be an official holiday for our state. To that end, there are many people who have notions about Juneteenth. It is important to understand as much as possible the historic facts about it. To that end, again, the League of Women Voters of Virginia is offering an event where facts will be shared. The featured presenter scholar is from our area, Dr. Cassandra Newby-Alexander. It will happen by Zoom on the 12th of June, the weekend before the actual celebration, so that people will move into it with facts about the event that we celebrate. That will also include links to events happening across the state. I have sent you, Charlie, the flyer of the event. Once you register, you will receive a link. Thank you very much.
Right, and I will go ahead and send that out by email as well to our list. All right, I have been requested to close up with just a quick comment. We, of course, have a Commonwealth's attorney race on here. If you want to take one last minute to make your pitch. See, we'll go alphabetically. Amina, you still on here? Amina, 1 minute on why we're voting for you.
Hello, yes, I am still on here. Thanks for having me. I have been throughout Norfolk for the past week, just talking to the residents of Norfolk. And I've been, as Commonwealth attorney, the things that happen in the city affect crime. Right now, there are a bunch of homeless citizens of Norfolk staying outside of the Greyhound bus station in tents. When I went there, three of the homeless citizens were being kicked out. That results in like trespass charges on other properties. It can result, one was a young lady who was scared to sleep outside. She could get raped or killed. So a lot of things, what I'm saying is, as Commonwealth attorney, I would make sure that I'm aware of everything that's going on in the community, how it affects crime prevention. And I'm laser focused on what needs to be done to make sure that all of these issues, we do have to make sure that the city of Norfolk is coming together and that all of these issues are addressed in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, which has never been done. The city, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office now works in a vacuum, but it can't, because all of the issues that affect the city affect crime. So, and I know there's someone up here who talked about one Norfolk. It does appear from talking to the citizens that they feel, despite what the rhetoric is, they feel that there's not one Norfolk. So I think that's important to acknowledge and recognize from the people that are living in those cities. So I'm just asking everyone to vote for me. I'm very in tune on what's going on in the communities and how the citizens of the communities feel. And I'm asking for everyone's vote. Today is early voting. You can vote all day from 8:30 to 5. In fact, I'm going to vote today.
All right. Thanks, Amina. Raman?
Hey,
You
good
were
morning, everybody.
vying.
Great to
I
see
see you were
everyone.
vying earlier with Louis Gabriel for our youth outreach. Had a couple of little ones bouncing on
That's
you.
right. That was my deputy campaign manager who came in to view our meeting. It's really great to see everybody here. Always nice to see the turnout. We are in the home stretch. Our Tuesday is going to be our big day to decide what direction the city of Norfolk is going to take for criminal justice. You all have heard my platform. If you're interested in seeing an in-person debate, we've got one tomorrow. We feel great in our campaign. We have good momentum. Last night if we didn't have 2,000 people, we had close to 2,000 people at Garden of Prayer for Leandria Johnson. She came out. It was raw. It was really good. And it was wonderful to have Congressman Scott and Senator Spruill there to speak on my behalf and to introduce me. We are going to be manning our polling places, and this is where we need your help. I have a link if you're pardon me. I have a link if you're interested in working at your home polling place, or if you're interested in working somewhere else. If you have an hour to spare, we'd love to see you. Finally, if you're interested in having a viewing party brewery tour, feel free to start out at Smartmouth and then head over to Maker's Craft, where we will be starting around 6:30 or 7 also. We're going to have a watch party to see what our results are. We feel good. We've done what we need to do. We are consistent with Norfolk's values about equity and criminal justice reform. But please, if you haven't voted, make sure you vote, because that's the only measure that's going to matter. Thank you very much, everybody. It's great to see you.
All right. And of course I feel obliged to make sure, even though she's probably out campaigning or something, longtime committee member Megan Vincent is also vying for that position. She's not here to make a closing pitch, but I at least want to get her name out there as well. So with that, a couple of announcements. Terry McAuliffe will be at Smartmouth Monday night at 7. Andrea mentioned her election party at O'Connor's on Tuesday night. Again, let's get through this primary. Let's come together behind all the winning candidates moving on to November. We have to maintain our blue stature in Virginia, and it's not going to be easy. So we're going to have to work hard through November. So with that, I want to thank everybody for your involvement. I want to thank all of our wonderful elected officials. You guys are great. You answer a lot of varied questions, and you do it so well. So from our federal, state, and local officials. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Go vote if you haven't already done it. And we will be hopefully doing a lot of these things in person soon. So thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye, Charlie. Bye, everybody.
Hey, Charlie.
Yeah, I'll get with you, Tim.
Okay.